Jaya Kunja Bihari. O Gopi Janavallabha Jayo Girivaradari Jayo Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. We are reading from the third canto, second chapter, 26th verse. You can repeat after me. Tato Nanda Vrajam Itha Pitra Kamsad Vibhihata Ekadash Samas Tatra Gudarchihi Sabalo Vasat Tato Nanda Vrajam Itha Pitra Kamsad Vibhihata Ekadasha Samas Tatra Gudarchihi Sabalo Vasat Tato Nanda Vrajam Itha Pitrakam Sad Vibhibhyata Ekadash Samas Tatra Gudarchihi Sabalo Vasat. Yes, two devotees. Mataji's. Word-to-word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. Tataha, thereafter, Nanda Vrajam, cow pastures of Nanda Maharaj, Ittaha, being brought up, Pitra, by his father, Kamsat, from Kamsa, Vibhibhyata, being afraid of, Ekadasha, 11, Samaha, years, Tatra, therein, Gudharchihi, covered fire, Sabalaha, with Baldev, Avasat, resided. Translation: thereafter, his father, being afraid of Kamsa, brought him to the cow pastures of Maharaj Nanda, and there he lived for 11 years like a covered flame with his elder brother Baldev. Purport: there was no necessity of the Lord's being dispatched to the house of Nanda Maharaj out of fear of Kamsa's determination to kill him as soon as he appeared. It is the business of the Asuras to try to kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or to prove by all means that there is no God, or that Krishna is an ordinary human being and not God. Lord Krishna is not affected by such determination of men of Kamsa's class. But in order to play the role of a child, he agreed to be carried by his father to the cow pastures of Nanda Maharaj, because Vasudev was afraid of Kamsa. Nanda Maharaj was due to receive him as his child, and Yashodamai was also to enjoy the childhood pastimes of the Lord, and therefore to fulfill everyone's desire, he was carried from Mathura to Vrindavan just after his appearance in the prison house of Kamsa. He lived there for 11 years and completed all his fascinating pastimes of childhood, boyhood and adolescence with his elder brother, Lord Baldev. His first expansion, Lord Baldev, his first expansion. Vasudev's thought of protecting Krishna from the wrath of Kamsa is part of a transcendental relationship. The Lord enjoys more when someone takes him as his subordinate son who needs the protection of a father than he does when someone accepts him as a supreme Lord. He is the father of everyone and he protects everyone. But when his devotee takes it for granted that the Lord is to be protected by the devotee's care, it is a transcendental joy for the Lord. Thus, when Vasudeva, out of fear of Kamsa, carried him to Vrindavan, the Lord enjoyed it. Otherwise, he had no fear from Kamsa or anyone else. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guro Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate giram yat kripa tavaham vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. So before I begin to discuss something on this most exalted subject matter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, I would like to seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas that whatever I speak, let it be in parampara and let it be pleasing to Shri Shri Nitai Gaur Chandra and bring pleasure to the hearts of all the devotees. Okay, so this is a very beautiful chapter which is going on where there is a meeting between Uddhava and Vidura. And Uddhava is, recalling beautiful pastimes of, Krishna, right? And right now, Uddhava is diving into the beautiful pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. So here Uddhava is specifically remembering this incident wherein he is saying, thereafter his father referring to Vasudeva Maharaj, being afraid of Kamsa, brought him to the cow pastures of Maharaj Nanda and lived for 11 years like a covered flame, right? So this is a very, very beautiful section where, Krishna is, exhibiting, through his pastimes, the glory of Vrindavan, the glory of Vraja Bhakti, right? So in Mathura we see when the demigods, beautiful prayers they recite in glorification of the Supreme Lord. Satyavartam, Satyaparam, Trisatyam, Satyasya Yonim, Nihitam cha Satye, Satyasya Satyam, Ritasatya Netram, Satyatmakam Tvam Sharanam Prapanna. Where the Supreme Lord, where the demigods pray, oh my dear Lord, you are the supreme absolute truth. You are the cause of all causes. And Vasudeva and Devaki, they undergo so many tribulations, they undergo so many difficulties, they undergo so many challenges in order to make Krishna appear in this world. Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, Kim dussaham nu sadhunam, vidusham kim apekshitam. Oh, what all the devotees are ready to undergo just for the sake of the Lord. Understanding that the Lord is the sum and substance of everything. What not can the surrendered souls go through just to bring Krishna in their life? That is what Vasudeva and Devaki, they tolerated so much. They tolerated so much just in order to bring Krishna. And therefore we understand through this, Vasudeva and Devaki were ready to forsake pleasure to bring purpose in their life, to bring Krishna in their life, which was their main purpose of life was to give Krishna pleasure, to please Krishna. And therefore, when we overcome that pleasure-seeking tendency and focus our lives on the purpose of wanting to please and serve Krishna, that is the time when spiritual life begins. So therefore, Vasudeva Maharaj and Devaki are very beautifully exhibiting this most profound principle. If you have to analyze carefully, if you see the track record of Vasudeva Maharaj with regards to protection, it is miserable. Why? Because Vasudeva Maharaj, he was not able to protect his wife from going to jail. He was not able to protect himself. Neither he was able to protect the 6 children from being killed at the hands of Kamsa, right? But still, in spite of having such a miserable track record, Krishna chooses him to protect him. Like, whenever, if there is some seva, right? If there is some service that is given, and especially when there is crisis, if suppose, the devotee who's in the altar, he faints, and there is 15 minutes for the darshan to open, You're supposed to immediately call out, you have to immediately call a devotee for getting the deities ready for darshan at 6:45. So in our temple, there are certain devotees. In crisis, if there is crisis, that devotee, if he is banked upon, he will surely do the work, right? So therefore, but this is also a crisis situation where Vasudeva Maharaj is where Krishna has appeared, and Vasudeva Maharaj, even though he's had a miserable track record of not being able to protect, but still Krishna chooses him, right? So therefore Krishna, through this particular incident, is teaching us that more important than skill or competence is the sincerity and faith that the devotee has on Krishna. Vasudev did not hesitate. Krishna, why did you choose me? You know that very well I have a miserable track record of not being able to protect anyone. But still, Krishna chose him only, right? And therefore, Vasudeva Maharaj had full faith, had full conviction, had full sincerity on the instruction of Krishna, because he understood along with instruction comes empowerment. I have been empowered by Krishna, and therefore he had that full faith, he had that full confidence, right, on the Supreme Lord, that he has given instruction, therefore the instruction will surely come to pass. There is no doubt about it. There was one disciple of Srila Prabhupada. In the 1970s, he had this conviction that it is not my skill that will enable me to distribute books of Prabhupada. It is just simply my conviction on the instructions of Srila Prabhupada that will help books go. So this particular devotee was in the airport, distributing books. And there was one particular person, there was a person who was watching this devotee distributing books in the airport. For 2 hours constantly he watched this devotee, and he was wondering, amazing this devotee. He approached this devotee and told him, I'm impressed. Why? Because you're able to convince people in taking something for which they are not interested in. How amazing is that? Therefore, I'm looking for a post in my company for the vice president of marketing and sales. Therefore, I offer you that job. And the devotee was, he told that gentleman, so, do you want a Bhagavad Gita? And that person, he said, what is this Bhagavad Gita? And that devotee told, this is the Bhagavad Gita written by Krishna and, told to Arjuna. And that person bought that Bhagavad Gita. And that devotee told, okay, I'll take the book. I give you my contact number and address. You also give me your contact number. We'll stay in touch. So next week, that devotee calls. That person calls that devotee and tells him, so what have you thought about my proposal, my offer to you? The devotee said on the phone, last week you took Bhagavad Gita. Would you like to have a Srimad Bhagavatam set? And that devotee and that person, he wanted to keep connection with that devotee because he knew he's an amazing marketing and sales person. And he said, what is this Bhagavatam about? And that devotee described what Bhagavatam is all about. Oh, Bhagavatam contains about cosmology and contains about various things. And that devotee and that person bought the whole Srimad Bhagavatam set to Prabhupada. Next week, now that devotee did not want to that person did not want to break the connection with the devotee. So he continued to follow up. Next week, again he called that devotee and told him, tell me, what is your final decision about my proposal to offer you a post as a VP of my company? The devotee said, do you have Chaitanya Charitamrita? And then the devotee said, my dear sir, we are not a hired salesman. We are doing it on the behalf of Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, who has written these books as compassion towards all the conditioned souls. I get no remuneration for it. So therefore, this is not a business that I am doing. So this devotee, shares in his remembrance that we never had any skill. We never had any competence. But all that we had is faith on the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. And therefore, this devotee was one of the highest book distributors in 1970. Right? Just because he had faith in the instruction. And along with that faith, gives empowerment. So therefore, Vasudeva Maharaj had full faith on Krishna's instruction, even though he did not have a track record of protection, right? And therefore, Srila Prabhupada was once in Vrindavan. This is in the 50s and 60s in Radha Damodar temple. And Prabhupada was writing. Prabhupada had a Parker pen. And he was writing his books, his Transcendental Bhaktivedanta purports. And Prabhupada's one Brajvasi friend comes into the room and tells, Abhay Babu, what am I seeing? You're writing with a Parker pen? And Abhay Babu says, yes, pointing to his Srimad Bhagavatam and pointing to his Bhaktivedanta purports. This Bhagavatam and Bhaktivedanta and these purports, जो कोई भी व्यक्ति ये ग्रंथ पढ़ेगा, वो भव सागर को पार कर जाएगा. That Prabhupada says. Abhigun Prabhu is very happy. So therefore we understand that how more than, and therefore Prabhupada writes in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he talks about, in this famous verse of, what is that? Yasmin janatag viplavo. Tadvag visargo janatag viplavo. Yasmin prati shlokam abbhavatya api. The Prabhupada writes, even though the composition of the Bhagavatam the composition may not be perfect, but namanya anantasya yasho ankitani yat. But what is more important? What is the subject? What is the glorification? Subject matter? The subject matter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, even though may be imperfectly composed, the subject matter is the glorification of Krishna. So therefore, even though there may be imperfections, even though there may be no skill or competence, but what is important is the faith and the conviction of the instruction. And that is what Prabhupada had on his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Therefore, Prabhupada, many times says the purpose of the Krishna conscious movement is to elevate our consciousness, not to increase our competence only. Yes, for a certain service, for a certain seva, competence may be required, and under the instruction of superior, we may be asked to develop a particular skill, but that is also, done under, under Vaishnavas, under the guidance of Vaishnavas. So therefore, it is very, very important. Just like Vasudeva Maharaj, what did he do? He brought Krishna's will into his life. Ta Krishna vahe Vasudeva agate. Taha means referring to the doors. Swayam vya vartante tamo yatha tamo rave. It is said, Shukdev Goswami is saying, Parikshit Maharaj, just like, when Vasudeva Maharaj picked up Krishna, as soon as he picked up Krishna, the doors opened. Swayam, automatically. Just like as soon as the sun arises in the horizon, darkness is automatically dissipated. It's just a matter, just the first rays of the sun, darkness is automatically dissipated. In a very, very similar manner, right? As soon as we embrace Krishna's will in our life, then all the darkness in our life is automatically dissipated, right? So, therefore, it is important, that in Krishna consciousness, what is our main asset? If this asset is there, then if this asset is there and you don't have any other assets, then everything can be done. But if this asset is not there and you have all the resource and assets, then nothing can be done. And what is that one asset? That asset is hope. Hope. And how is that hope created? That hope is created in the association of Vaishnavas. Devotees travel. Devotees preach the message of Krishna consciousness only with this one intention and with this one goal, to give hope to the conditioned soul, right? This is our great fortune, that all of us have got this Vaishnava Sangha, Vaishnava association, where we get hope, that yes, I get inspiration, I get hope from this Vaishnava, that I can go along ahead in devotional service and try in my battle to fight with Maya. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when he is having a conversation with Ramanand Rai, Mahaprabhu is asking Ramanand Rai, what is the most painful thing in this entire material existence? And what does Ramanand Rai answer? The most painful thing in the entire material existence is separation from the Vaishnavas. And in the verse to that purport, Prabhupada quotes a very nice verse. He does not give the reference, but he says in the Vedic scriptures, he talks about, there's a particular verse which talks about 4 symptoms of misfortune. If this is not there, then your life is of no use. So there Prabhupada describes the first symptom of fortune, why one is unfortunate if one is not able to worship Krishna. So therefore the first symptom of fortune is that one is able to worship Krishna. Now how many of you all are able to daily worship Krishna at your homes in the form of the deities, in offering bhoga? Practically all of us. So 25% of our lives are perfect. We are getting an opportunity to worship Krishna. That is the first symptom of good fortune. Second symptom of good fortune is, the second symptom of good fortune is that we are able to get association of Vaishnavas. That is the second symptom of good fortune. And the third symptom of good fortune is that in that association of Vaishnavas, we are able to serve the Vaishnavas, hear, read and chant. So this is what is the glory of Vaishnava association. So therefore, Vaishnava association, is our only hope. And therefore, Vasudev Maharaj, even though he was in the most helpless situation, he was in the most fearful situation. He had fear for protection of Krishna, because having that Vatsalya, he was always in anxiety. What is going to happen, right? And therefore, even though Vasudev Maharaj was kept in a helpless situation by Kamsa, he was not hopeless. That's a very important lesson that we learn. At no point of time he was hopeless, because he was always hopeful that Krishna has come, therefore all the darkness will get in my life will get dissipated because of Krishna's presence in my life. So therefore, we have this, therefore we see how Vasudev Maharaj so beautifully embraced Krishna's will. And therefore we see this example of how Vasudev Maharaj is taking shelter of Krishna and bringing Krishna crosses the Yamuna and brings Krishna to Yashoda Mai, right? And this very famous chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto comes of the Nand Utsav, right? Where this famous verse where Shukdev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj, Nandastva Atmaja Utpanne Mahalada Jatalada Mahamane, where Nanda Maharaj is very joyful. Jatalada Mahamane. He is very, very magnanimous. What is the reason for his joy? Because now Krishna has come. Now Krishna has appeared in Gokul. And what does he do? As a result of the expression of that joy and that happiness, Ahuya Vipran Vedagyan. He calls all the Vipras, he calls all the Brahmanas to perform ceremonies, to perform rituals, right? And as a result of that joy, what does he himself do? Snataha Suchir Alankritaha. He gets himself ready, he bathes himself, he purifies himself, and he decorates himself so nicely, just in order to receive Krishna in his life, right? So therefore, we understand. But in this verse we see, the word that is being used is Nandastu. What is the word? What is the meaning of the word tu mean basically, generally? But, right? Now, which verse, generally verses in the Bhagavatam, or you don't see it starts with but, right?
but there is a context. And what is the context here? That if you just analyze, who did tapasya to get Krishna? Vasudeva and Devaki. Vasudeva and Devaki performed thousands of years of tapasya in order to receive Krishna in their lives. But who gets the result of that austerity? Yashodamai and Nanda Maharaj. No, is that logical in any point? It is not at all logical at all. You perform austerity and someone gets the result. Our very main impetus to chant Hare Krishna is so that we can go home back to Godhead. That is the impetus of a devotee. But if suppose tomorrow someone tells you, you chant Hare Krishna and he goes back to Godhead, you will start figuring out other options. Maybe I should check out the demigods. They are not, after all, a very bad option, right? We may start thinking in that train of thought, the line of thought may come. If you don't have that faith, right? But here, Krishna, Nanda Maharaj, Vasudeva and Devaki are performing austerity, and Yashoda Mai and Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj are getting the fruit of seeing the beautiful pastimes of Krishna, right? For 11 years continuously. And what pastimes? The most mesmerizing part of any child's livelihood is what? The bachpan, right? The childhood pastimes of Krishna. And therefore, for any person, for any parent, for any father and mother, the most wonderful part of the child's growth is the childhood. Because, that is where the child, speaks in the broken language, attracts the heart of the mother and father. And therefore, that childhood pastimes, Vasudeva and Devaki did not get that great fortune where Yashodamai and Nanda Maharaj got, right? And for those 11 years, which is being talked upon this verse, now if you just think about it, Krishna appears when? One day in the entire life, in the day of Brahma. Once in the day of Brahma. And even in that once, which is comprising of nearly billions and billions of years, in that billions and billions of years, only 11 years, and that 11 years he spends it with Nanda Maharaj and Yashodamai. Now how will they feel? Right? But still, this is Krishna. All that, and therefore this is the theme of Vrindavan. The theme of Vrindavan or the theme of Braja is that you just simply comprehending Krishna's will. One cannot. Krishna's will is unfathomable, unimaginable, right? But what is the beauty of Vrindavan is that they just simply submit to Krishna's will. That is the beauty of Vrindavan, right? But more difficult than submitting to Krishna's will is sometimes submitting to devotees' will. Now, Krishna in the form of Shastras has said, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Now, if you don't like the verse, you can just simply close the book and go to sleep. No, I don't want to listen to this verse. I'm not interested. But if suppose the manager comes and tells you, there is seva, do the seva. No, you cannot run away from the manager and, hide away somewhere. Then immediately complaint will go to the authorities. This devotee is, escaping seva, right? So therefore, more difficult than Krishna's will is submitting to devotees' will, right? Once, Prabhupada, so in the 1970s, there was this very famous brainwashing case where the Hare Krishnas were labeled as a cult. And disciples of Prabhupada went to Prabhupada and told that, Prabhupada, we are being accused like this. What should we do? And Prabhupada said that we should fight in the court. And the devotee says, Prabhupada, I don't know anything. After all, I'm a college dropout. Prabhupada said, that is the qualification. No problem. You go and fight. Prabhupada, what should I do? Go to the courtroom and present our Bhagavatam there. And what should I say? Speak from the first canto, first chapter, first verse. Second day, speak from the first canto, first chapter, second verse. Third day, speak from the third verse. Fourth day, speak from the fourth verse. convert the courtroom into a Bhagavatam class. Prabhupada said that. And that devotee did exactly. Why am I telling you this? Because, comprehending the will of a devotee is very bewildering. You cannot comprehend. Logically, it doesn't seem sound. But this is the instruction, this is the devotee's will. So that devotee went into the courtroom. For 7 days, he presented the first 7 verses of Bhagavatam. And then the judge asked, how much more evidence do you have? That judge said, we have 18,000 more evidences yet in line to be presented, my lord. And that devotee, he called up his friend who happened to be a professor in the Harvard Divinity School, Dr. Harvey Cox, he gives his, and he asks this particular professor, and tell me, what are these Hare Krishnas? They keep on distributing books everywhere, and they keep on making sound on the streets. What is your opinion about them? And this particular person happened to receive entire set of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, at that point of time, whatever was available. And he tells this judge that the Hare Krishnas are authentic, they are following a tradition, and therefore they are not a cult. And therefore, in that famous case of the brainwashing case, the judge passed that the Hare Krishnas are authentic. They are not a cult. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So therefore, therefore, to embrace, devotees' will is very, 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 very difficult. But more difficult than to embrace devotees' will is to embrace Krishna's whim. Right? What do you, there is a saying in English, whims and fancies, right? Krishna's whim is before that we only discussed. Krishna is very unpredictable. Very unpredictable. The way he did with Vasudeva and Devaki. Krishna not necessarily does not follow a rule book. He gives the rule book in the form of Bhagavad Gita, ye yatha mam prapadyante. But he necessarily does not follow that rule. And we see it in the case of Vasudeva and Devaki. They perform so much austerity, but who gets the benefit? Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, right? Thing. So therefore, sometimes you even see this in Prabhupada's life, right? Once Prabhupada, the construction of Krishna Balram Mandir was going on, and the devotees were in Fogla Ashram, and they were walking on the road, and suddenly they see a sweet shop, and that person, he was in a very good mood that day. The previous day, good sales happened. So he said, I want to distribute sweets to all the devotees here. Sandesh, Rasgulla, Barfi, Jalebi, name it. And he distributed sweets to all, and devotees, in one devotee's hand there was Rasgulla, in another devotee's hand there was Barfi, in another devotee's mouth there was Jalebi, and they were all relishing sweets. And suddenly a car passes by, and they see from the distance that is Prabhupada's car. And the car passes by and it does not stop, it goes ahead. And the devotees were relieved. Oh, Prabhupada's car went by. But wait, the car stops and the car takes a reverse. And Prabhupada opens the window and sees with big eyes. And all the devotees were like, oh my God, one devotee had Rasgulla in his hand, and another devotee already had half the jalebi in his mouth, other half was out. And in that scene, devotees were bewildered. Now what will Prabhupada do? What will Prabhupada say? Will Prabhupada chastise us? And Prabhupada, with big eyes, smiled. And what did Prabhupada say? Bengali sweets are essential for life. Bengali sweets are essential for life. And then, after 3 years after this incident, the devotee who was involved in that episode, which was with Prabhupada in the West, there was a distribution of books going on. And Prabhupada was there signing books. And Prabhupada, and there the devotee, brings a sandesh in front of Prabhupada and says, Prabhupada, Bengali sweets, essential for life. Prabhupada picks up the Chaitanya Charitamrita and says, this is the real Bengali sweet, right? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj also, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says, what is this Chaitanya Charitamrita? Chaitanya Leela Ratnasar. This Chaitanya Charitamrit is the collection of jewels, Swarupera Bhandar, which is this Bhandar, this treasure of Chaitanya Charitamrit is held by Swarup Damodar. And what does he do? Thehu Thule Raghunathera Kanthe. Raghunathera Kanthe. And this Chaitanya Leela, I have heard, which has been passed on from Swarup Damodar to Raghunath Das Goswami, I have heard it from the mouth of Raghunath Das Goswami. And therefore, this Chaitanya Charitamrita is not a book, it is a gift. Bhakta Gane Ehi Dilun Bhete. I have just given this gift to the entire Vaishnava community. It is not an ordinary book. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has given us his Bhakti, the Srimad Bhagavatam. He has given us the Chaitanya Charitamrit. He has given us his Bhakti Vedanta purports. These books teach us about Vraj Bhakti. They teach us about how to submit to Krishna's will. So therefore, it is, important. And therefore, we see that when the entire ritualistic ceremonies of Krishna goes on the day of Nandutsav, Mother Rohini is also in joy. And therefore, Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, when she is describing about Rohini Mata, he addresses her as Mahabhaga. Why does he address her as Mahabhaga? Because if you see the situation at that point of time, Rohini Mata's husband is who? Vasudev Maharaj. Vasudev Maharaj is where? In jail. When husband is in jail, should the wife be celebrating? Should the wife be happy? Should the wife be decorated so nicely with ornaments and jewel and nice clothes? Ideally not. But it is written in the Bhagavatam, Rohini Mata is very happy. She's celebrating. Why? Because that will give Krishna pleasure. That is what is important. Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai are happy, celebrating. So Rohini Mata, because Krishna has appeared, she has taken this austerity of forgetting all her grief so that Krishna could be given pleasure. Therefore, it is important in our endeavors, in our service, whatever difficulties, challenges or tribulations that we may face in the course of doing our seva, it is important that we bring purpose into picture. Our purpose is to give pleasure to our superiors. Our purpose is to give pleasure to our authorities. Our purpose is to give pleasure to Guru and Krishna. So therefore, Vasudev Maharaj but Nanda Maharaj also was in fear. Why? More important than his bliss was the fear that he had for Krishna's protection. Right? He wanted to protect Krishna. And therefore, we see that episode where Nanda Maharaj, he goes to Kamsa in order to pay taxes. And there he meets whom? Vasudev Maharaj. And both of them embrace each other. Both of them pay their obeisances. And Vasudev Maharaj heart is plaguing with anxieties. That the previous day, I went and carried my boy to Gokul. Is my boy safe? Is everything well? But he could not directly ask Nanda Maharaj. He could not directly say, how is your son doing? If he says your son, then Nanda Maharaj could think, how does he know that I have a son already? I have not already told this information to him. So therefore, in a very hidden form, he asks Nanda Maharaj, oh Nanda Maharaj, in a very advanced age, you are not able to beget any praja. Now the word praja can mean boy or it can mean girl, in a very hidden way. Because Vasudev Maharaj in no way did not want to bring anxiety or did not want to create suspicion or doubt in the heart of Nanda Maharaj. So therefore he was so careful, he was so sensitive. Therefore, Anudveka Karam Vakyam Satyam Priyam Hitam Chayat. what should be our speech when dealings with Vaishnavas come? It should be non-agitating. The right time, that was not the right time, to say certain things with respect to telling Nanda Maharaj that I was the one who brought Krishna and therefore he is my son. No, he understood this is not the time. In due course of time, the news may come out, or it will come as per Krishna's will. But this is not Krishna's will at this point of time. So therefore, he was very, very careful. He was very, 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 very sensitive about this. So we see, we see how Vasudev Maharaj also dealt with Nand Maharaj. So we see even very beautiful pastimes in Chaitanya Charitamrit as to how, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, he, even though before embarking on the South Indian tour, right, he took blessings of the Vaishnavas. And before that he was saying, I am going on a mission to find Vishwarup, right? And he takes, he tells that I do not want any devotees to come with me. And before embarking on that South India Yatra, he takes blessings of devotees. Before that he takes blessings of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. And Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya says that I can tolerate the thunderbolt on my head or the death of my son, but I cannot tolerate a separation from you, my dear Lord. It is very, very difficult. I cannot tolerate a separation from you. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, okay. He apparently postpones his departure. But when he goes to the Jagannath temple, and the garland of Jagannath ji falls from Jagannath, and the pujari gives the garland to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understands this as a signal from Jagannath ji, and then he departs to South India. So therefore we understand, Krishna is Janmadi Yasya Yataha Anvayat Itiratas Charteshu Abhigya Swarat. Krishna is independent. We cannot question Krishna's will. All that we do, we just have to simply submit to his will. And when we submit to his will, then our life will become glorious. And this is what is Vrindavan. Vraja, the word Vraja means what? Movement. Vraja means movement. And therefore we see in Vrindavan, the Vrajvasis just simply moved and danced according to the tune which Krishna played. When the entire Govardhan Leela happened, they never questioned Krishna. They never told Nanda Maharaj, oh Nanda Maharaj, your son is a fool. We should have not listened to your son. Because of listening to your son, we are in this situation. No, at no point of time, they inquired, what happened? I heard that, your house got washed away by the flood. What happened to your property? My property is safe. No kind of such conversations happened. No kind of such kind of talks or gossiping happened. They never questioned Krishna. And therefore, this is what is the mood of Vrindavan. Mood of Vrindavan is just complete dependence on Krishna's will. This is what we see. And, therefore, and when we also arrange our life, orchestrate our life in trying to submit to that will, then our lives will also be successful. And therefore, our founder Acharya, he has also, on behalf of his spiritual master, on behalf of the Supreme Lord, he has also kept forward his will. And what is his will? Now in India, the Operation Sindhu has been inaugurated by our Prime Minister Modi, But for devotees, what is that Operation Sindhu? That is our chanting. Every day, we have an Operation Sindoor, which will help our sins go dur. All just by chanting of the holy names, all our sins will be washed away. Of course, that is a secondary benefit. That is not the primary benefit why we chant the Hare Krishna. But, just in the news, if you were seeing, the Indian government said that our attacks were measured. Our attacks were measured. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada has also given us measured count of chanting, right? How many rounds? 16 attentive rounds. Following 4 legged principles. Prabhupada has given us that. So therefore, every day we also have to fight a war with Maya. We also have our Operation Sindhu to, to carry out every single day. And therefore, when we are vigilant at every point of time about the enemy coming and creeping into our consciousness, but if we do not, if our chanting is mechanical, our chanting is inattentive, then that operation that we carry out every single day will fail. Therefore, in order to be successful in our lives, so that that Operation Sindhu of Japa, is successful, we should every day, without fail, give our best attempts in our chanting. In that way, we can dance according to the tune what Srila Prabhupada has set for us. And in that way, make our lives successful. Hare Krishna. So, I will just quickly summarize. I told a lot of things. So just 2 minutes. So today we saw the beautiful, the mood of Vrindavan is how everyone submits to Krishna's will. And we began with how Vasudev Maharaj and Devki, they forsake pleasure to put purpose in front. That was the first lesson that we learned. The second lesson that we learned, even though Vasudev Maharaj had no past track record of protection, but still Krishna chose him to protect him. Which the second lesson we take from this is that competence or skill is what Krishna does not see. What is more important is that faith and sincerity of that instruction, because along with instruction comes that empowerment. So that is the second lesson. And therefore, our main asset, just like Vasudev Maharaj, he was not, even though he was helpless, he was not hopeless. So therefore, our main asset in Krishna consciousness is hope. And therefore, that hope is created in the association of Vaishnavas, that Vaishnava Sangha. That is very, very important. And therefore, actually one more point that I remember is, in the Bhagavatam, therefore Vasudev Maharaj is called Shaurya. Right? Tatascha Shaurya Bhagavat Prachodita. Why is Vasudev Maharaj called Shaurya? Even though he had a miserable track record. Why was he called brave? For this very reason. Right? Because he took the bravery of embracing Krishna's will. In our life, when some challenges come, some tribulations come, our faith gets shaken. And we start questioning, Discover Yourself Part 1. Does God exist? Right? But Vasudev Maharaj did not do that. He embraced Krishna's will. And next, we saw Krishna's will, more difficult to embrace Krishna's will is Vaishnava's will. And more difficult embracing Vaishnava's will is Krishna's whim. Because Krishna's unpredictable in nature. But do we question Krishna's will? Krishna's whim? No. We just simply surrender to that will. And that is what our life becomes glorious. And finally, we have to execute the will of our Acharya, that is Prabhupada. And what is his will? That we chant our rounds. And therefore, every single day we are carrying out an Operation Sindhu. And in order to be successful, we take shelter of the holy names, chant attentively, and achieve the ultimate destination of life. That is Krishna Prem. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.